Hello everybody, this is the M-Crew Dude. I'm sure you're sick of open season at this point. I know I am. I mean, it's just getting embarrassing at this point with all of these sequels that get progressively worse. I never thought that Sony would actually go on to make movies that are so bad they make Open Season 2 look serviceable by comparison. Okay, so Open Season Scared Silly is the fourth installment in the franchise released worldwide in 2016. You might reasonably assume that this was intended to be a Halloween special, but I guess that wasn't the case, since it was first shown theatrically in Turkey on December 18th, 2015. Therefore, I'm not giving the film the satisfaction of reviewing it on Halloween. As this is a full-length feature film, I will be treating it as such. It's also worth noting that the voice actors have been replaced once again, and they all just sound hollow and lifeless, much like the rest of the studio. Okay, it's almost over, so let's see what lurks ahead with Open Season Scared Silly. The film opens with a rabbit doing the Wilhelm scream as Elliot gathers the animals around to tell them a bone-chilling story about the wailing wumpus werewolf that stalks the forest at night.
Ian? Is that you? I'm pretty vulnerable out here. I'm just a doe. A deer. A female deer.
Come on, they did that same joke in the second film.
They needed a hero. They were about to get one!
Who can protect us?
I can!
So Elliot then inserts himself as the hero in this fan fiction and saves the day.
I don't know how you find the courage.
It just comes with being a wailing wampus werewolf whisperer. Say that 3 times fast.
Wailing wampus werewolf whisper, wailing rumpus roofly flopless, wailing rimpless loveless. I can't do it. I'm not as skilled as you.
First of all, never actually do that. And second, I guess Elliot's fantasy is the only way that people will idolize him. So Elliot states that the werewolf can only be subdued through interpretive dance, and shaking his butt, apparently. So McSquizzy, now voiced by Lee Tokar, interrupts the story and calls Elliot out on his nonsense, while Boog is genuinely afraid of fictional monsters. By the way, look at this. They have a campfire but no fire. Instead, they just have a cluster of fireflies. I get that they're animals, but it just looks ridiculous.
Now werewolves aren't like you and me. Unless you enjoy ripping lungs out of things. But hey, who am I to judge? The wailing wampus werewolf is a different breed. He stalks the forest looking for the biggest, juiciest tub of lard he can find.
As you might have already guessed, the jokes are even worse this time.
Let's take a short intermission. There's refreshments at the lake, and by that, I mean you can drink the lake, which is refreshing. I'll be right back.
Now, was that funny? No, it wasn't! Well, unfortunately, the rest of the movie is like this. So Boog runs away screaming as Elliot tries to console him. Of course, Boog is actually stupid enough to be afraid of Elliot's self-indulged fantasy.
Listen, I didn't grow up in the woods. I lived in a cozy garage, remember? I had a comfy bed with my own blanket. A bowl with my name on it, I think. Fishy crackers. And Wheel of Fortune on TV.
Hey, is that a unicycle? You got the best flashbacks, Boog.
Why is he surprised by this? He's the one who robbed Boog of his domestic house life, so you would think that's something he would remember.
I gotta get away.
You are getting away. We're going on that camping trip, remember?
I am not going camping with a monster out there.
You can't bail on this trip. We've been planning it for 3 years.
How long does it take to plan a trip like that? Funny how he complains about Boog bailing on him when he did the exact same thing in the third film. That's actually something I need to address. This movie isn't canon with the rest of the franchise, so fortunately, there is no mentioning of Fifi, Doug, Ursa, Roberto, or any of the other characters from the sequels. Small blessings, I guess. So Boog explains that he would rather build a panic room and lock himself inside until the werewolf dies of natural causes. You know, werewolves are immortal in common folklore, so his idea of hiding forever is pointless.
So what's a panic room?
It's a safe place you can lock yourself into to keep the werewolves out. First, you dig a hole. Say this acorn is me, and this ladybug is the werewolf. So the ladybug tries to eat me, see? But she can't.
Well, that little thing obviously won't keep the ladybug out. Just at that moment, Mr. Weenie shows up and tells them that his owners have gone missing, leaving Elliot to conclude that they must have been eaten by the werewolf. Mr. Weenie seems relatively unfazed by that, and he leaves with Elliot as they wish Boog goodnight.
Don't tell anyone I'm afraid of the werewolf.
Don't worry. We're speaking in the pine cone of silence. Guess what, everybody? Boog is afraid of the werewolf.
Your stories aren't even true.
What? How can you say that? They're totally true.
You've never even seen this so-called werewolf.
I've never seen my so-called brain, but I'm pretty sure I've got one.
Yeah, I bet that's not the only thing he's never seen.
It's more like an embarrassment. Get it? Embarrassment. Go easy on Boog. We all have our fears. Mr. Weenie, you're afraid of hot dog buns. Yeah, and pickle relish. And mustard. Serge, you're afraid of duct tape. Riley, you're afraid of splinters. And Buddy, balloons scare the quills off of you.
Balloons.
Oh my god, he killed them! So Elliot comes up with a stupid plan to help Boog face his fears, while Boog has a dream which ends with a predictable jump scare.
Beth! Dinkelman! We're home! It was all just a real long bad dream.
If only that were true for me.
Beth?
After he wakes up, Elliot tells him that a shipment of candy bars arrived in town, and he suggests taking the most dangerous shortcut possible to avoid the werewolf. Why is he still afraid of it? Everyone knows werewolves only transform at night.
We can't go into town. The trail will expose us to the werewolf.
Not if we take the shortcut.
Shortcut?
Yep, the shortcut.
Well, that looks nice.
Yeah, we're going over there.
You know, speaking from experience, taking a no chance of survival trail is never worth it. As they travel down the trail with Mr. Weenie, we cut to Shaw the Hunter. Yeah, remember him from the first movie? Since hunting has been banned, he now runs a hiking tour company that also dabbles in sign painting, apparently. He's now voiced by Trevor Duvall, and he's an okay replacement, but he pales in comparison to Gary Sinise. So he guides his tour directly through the same gulch, as Elliot orchestrates a bunch of creepy things to scare Boog. By the way, I love how the mist spells out die in fancy lettering like it's a polite but assertive suggestion. While the plan doesn't seem to be working so far, Ian attempts to disguise himself as a werewolf, but ends up tripping over a rock, which results in him getting attacked by bees before falling into the mud. You know, an oddly specific set of circumstances. He screams and runs aimlessly through the thicket, making Elliot believe that the werewolf is actually real. By the way, Ian falls off a cliff and somehow survives. Shaw's group also encounters Ian, so he quickly gets a picture before returning to town. As Boog, Elliot, and Mr. Weenie make their way back to Timberline, they encounter Shaw's truck on the road and realize that he's up to something. No idea why they got that idea when it's already clear that he hates them. They all go to the office of Sheriff Gordy, who you might remember from the first movie. Okay, if there's one good thing I'll say about the movie, it's this. It actually tries to be a faithful sequel. The continuity feels more natural, as the film doesn't forget about past characters. Admittingly, there's no reason for them to return, since their arcs are over, but that never stopped Sony before. It's nice to see Timberline again, but there should have been a better reason for returning. Not to mention, why is the town suddenly within walking distance when it was clear from the first film that Boog was relocated miles from civilization? Shaw informs Gordy and the other attendees that he has unfalsifiable evidence that the werewolf is real. He shows them a set of pictures despite the fact that he only took one, but no one is convinced by it. For some reason, Shaw shows them this crappy drawing he did, and now everyone believes him. How is a kindergarten-level drawing more conclusive than a set of pictures? Maybe he should be writing for The Onion. In order to listen in on what's going on, Boog ties a rope to Elliot and dangles him through the overhead vent. Okay, seriously, how does no one see him? Is Shaw's Neolithic forehead so big that it cuts off his line of sight? Unfortunately, Mr. Weenie's hunger gets the better of him and he starts fantasizing about Boog's droopy bear dick, which causes Elliot to fly across the room and catches the attention of no one. The three of them flee, alerting Shaw, and this somehow convinces Gordy that the werewolf is an active threat. Why? He knows that Shaw is mentally insane, but he still decides to reopen open season so that Shaw can hunt the werewolf. Why did he need to do that? He could have just reissued his hunting permit so that he was only legally allowed to find the werewolf. Not to mention, Wasn't Shaw arrested at one point? At the very least, he should have been tried for the various other crimes he committed. If so, why weren't his gun and permit confiscated? Well, there's no time to answer those questions because now we immediately move on to more stupidity. For literally no reason, we get a gag where Elliot gets a massive deer tick stuck to his face, which was actually a deleted scene from the first film, but it was a lot funnier back then. After that, he makes this idiotic revelation.
I've been talking about the werewolf and suddenly it's everywhere. What if... pine trees, pine trees, pine trees. No way! I say it and I see it. Rocks. Ah! I shall call this power the Secret and use it responsibly.
A better movie? Well, we all can't get what we want. Shaw then returns to his cabin and goes to his gun, which he calls Lorraine. He doesn't even keep it in a gun case like a sensible person, but gives it its own bed, blanket, and set of nightstands. Hey, I guess when you love the Second Amendment that much. He even talks to it like it's a lover, so that's a whole new set of gross implications. Shaw then drives off to gather a few of his hunting buddies, and this is when we meet Ed and Edna, voiced by Gary Chalk and Kathleen Barr respectively, who run a poutine truck in the middle of nowhere. Ugh. I'd like to apologize to Canada on behalf of this movie for this utterly offensive portrayal of Canadian stereotypes. Meanwhile, Elliot and Boog meet with the other animals and give them the bad news, but Elliot believes that the only way to deal with the werewolf is to dance. So nobody decides to step up to the plate, leaving Elliot to conduct his so-called plan, even though literally everyone else seems to have more common sense. Mr. Weenie suggests that they return to his RV to search for clues about his owner's disappearance, so they investigate with the help of Giselle. By the way, she has no romantic chemistry with Elliot in this film, so there is zero character development.
Obviously, none of you have ever been on a wailing wampus werewolf investigation, so follow my lead. Don't touch the evidence, don't contaminate the crime scene, and do not, under any circumstances, pee on anything. Boog. You're disgusting.
That would have been funnier if that was actually tied into his character. So Mr. Weenie opens the RV door from the inside and shuts off the bug zapper, which is inside the RV for some reason. Pretty sure that's a safety violation. So they find the RV in spotless condition, and Boog uncovers a set of tracking equipment that he thinks could be useful.
We'll need this face helmet.
He's not gonna turn that thing on, is he?
Probably.
If only that was how the movie ended.
That's all that is left. I'm so sad, but so hungry. Oh, but so sad.
Why does it smell like 11 herbs and spices?
The smell of pure evil.
So the animals leave just as Gordy arrives to feed Mr. Weenie. Clearly he's doing a terrible job at pet sitting if his food bowl was empty for so long. As Elliot tries to hunt the werewolf, he theorizes that the best way to track it is to find its poop. Okay, why?
You can learn a lot about a monster from its poo. It's the window to the soul.
The eyes are the window to the soul.
Not for a werewolf.
Elliot, what exactly do you mean by analyze?
It means I must become one with the poo. This dropped 56 minutes ago. That's strange. I hear the ocean. Funny how that happens every time.
How many times do you do this?
Enough times to know there's only one way left to truly know the werewolf's whereabouts.
No! Come on! Congratulations, Sony! You finally made Elliot eat feces. It might as well be canon now that Elliot is a confirmed copperphile. So he quickly learns that the poop he tried to eat wasn't from a werewolf, but McSquizzy's, as if anybody thought otherwise.
Code brown! Friends poo! Friends poo! Why'd you say to friends poo?
We're not friends. Friends don't eat friends too.
That's a special kind of friendship, but I ain't no slut! So Elliot runs off to the lake to clean the taste from his mouth, while Shaw shows up and also eats the turd. But he swallows it. I guess this confirms that, unlike Elliot, he isn't a spitter. What the hell is this? Why is Sony so obsessed with scat in these films? As Shaw closes in on the animals, Boog notices a seaplane that just so happens to be there. Yeah, there's no explanation for this. Elliot asks the two ducks if they know how to fly, to which they say yes, and you already know where this is going. They somehow manage to take off, but then the ducks bail on them, revealing that they can't operate the aircraft. This is some of the worst humor I've ever seen in a film like this. So Boog manages to steer the plane until they safely crash to the ground. We get a few stupid jokes, as well as this one that doesn't make sense in context.
Hey, what'd I miss?
I know they wanted to make a log joke, but Riley was there the whole time, so the joke would have been earned if he actually left to begin with. So Elliot decides to come up with a new plan to lure the werewolf out of hiding, and he does so by making Boog dress drag and pretend to be a female werewolf. Following that, we get a joke that almost made me laugh.
I'm not sure I can pull this off.
Let's rehearse. I'll pretend to be male.
Don't strain yourself.
Boog, make me attracted to you.
Okay, it was more laughing at the movie as opposed to with it. So Boog's disguise works at making Ian horny for some reason. What is wrong with this film? So Mr. Weenie eats a bunch of ketchup packets out of hunger, and everyone suddenly thinks that he's the werewolf despite the fact that it doesn't make any logical sense in context. So they decide to set up a camera that night to see if anything happens.
The full moon is even fuller than last night's full moon. If Mr. Weenie's going to transform into the werewolf, tonight's the night! We've got to stay awake, no matter what.
No problem. I could stay awake. Elliot.
Oh, Boog, I had the most wonderful dream. Me and you were dolphins. I was a regular dolphin, and you were kind of a fat dolphin.
And then I ate this fish.
Hell's that got to do with anything?
Hot dolphin!
So they wake up the next morning and check the camera, but can't find any evidence to support the idea that Mr. Weenie is the werewolf. Weenie overhears this, and realizes that he must have murdered his owners, and now his friends are in danger too. Unfortunately, Shaw and company return and chase Boog, Elliot, and Giselle across the street and into the coal mine filled with lava. Despite how ridiculous this is, the team runs inside and rides a couple of minecarts through the caves. Here we get a few visual gags that aren't funny, and then Shaw grabs hold of Mr. Dinkelman and pulls him back, but the straps break and Dinkelman legit dies. Yeah, he falls into the lava. So the minecarts fly off the tracks, while Boog lands perfectly onto a cactus. Hey, I guess anything can be a dildo if you're brave enough. So Boog and Elliot get into a fight over Elliot's selfish nature, as Boog retreats to his panic room. As Mr. Weenie still believes that he's the werewolf, he breaks out into a god-awful song.
As the werewolf blood courses through my slender Wiener dog body, I must wander these lonely woods all alone, all alone. I am the werewolf, Lobos homine, which in Latin means werewolf.
Lupinatum.
Actually, the word werewolf derives from the Old English word were, meaning man, so it's a man-wolf. Unlike the filmmakers, I actually fact-checked some things. As Boog finds his friends, he overhears Shaw telling Ed and Edna his plan to lure the werewolf to Dead Bear Gulch, where he will finally trap it and kill it. Realizing that Elliot is heading there as well and could be in danger, he decides to run off and try to save him. Shaw and company then dress up as werewolves themselves and attempt to attack Elliot, which is just stupid, but then Boog shows up to fight the hunters. Ed and Edna run away while Shaw is unfazed and decides to kill the animals upon realizing that there actually is no werewolf. Shaw then beats the crap out of him, making him the ballsiest character in the film, but then Boog knocks a beehive on Shaw, causing him to run away as well. Shaw then gets caught by Gordy, who decides to permanently shut down open season for good. Boog finally reunites with Gordy, who invites him to come back to town, which completely betrays his character. After all, he was the one who pushed for Boog to live in the wild, where he belongs. That was the whole point. Elliot reveals that he saved Mr. Dinkelman, and he's now unscathed. Okay, how did he do that? Dinkelman clearly fell into the lava, so there was obviously no way to save him. Elliot and Boog finally get to go on their camping trip, which is pretty much them walking a few meters in a random direction, and then the real werewolf shows up and starts attacking. Luckily, Elliot decides to start dancing in a cringe-inducing way to What I Like About You, turning the monster docile. It's pretty clear that the song was more of an afterthought, since anything could have done. The next morning, it is revealed that Mr. Weenie's owners were off planning a surprise birthday party for him and invited a few of his friends to visit. Really? They invited Rico but not Roger? Sacrilege! So the film finally ends as the werewolf tries to get Boog to indulge in his newfound cross-dressing fetish. And that was the end of the open season franchise. Do you even need me to tell you it's bad? By comparison, it's better than 3 simply because things actually happen in it. Granted, most of those things are annoying, but it does have a solid plot. Like I said, I liked seeing past characters again, but it would have been better if they showed some degree of development. The humor was annoying, the dialogue was childish, and the film as a whole had no reason to exist in the first place. Yeah, I'm done. If it wasn't clear enough, this movie sucked. Finally, I finished the open season quadrilogy. It's been a horrible ride, but I'm so glad to say that I was able to finish what I started. This is the M Crew Dude signing off, wishing you all a very pleasant day.